Two. What's going on, everybody? My name is Jack Kelly, host of Point to the Spot, US-based podcast focused on the world of football. Joining me today, as always, is my entirely bonkers friend, Reed Hammond. Reed, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. I do believe that is the first time you have ever asked me how I am doing on this
It
show.
is the first time ever.
And once again, joining the show is a future presidential candidate, Ball for Prez 2020, Andrew Ball. Andrew, how are you today, sir?
I'm excellent. And Jack, I think we need to really begin the show with just a moment of silence for Arsenal's Champions League hopes.
Well, you say hopes as if they were existent.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's never any hope for Arsenal in the Champions League. We know what we're going to get. The last 16, good and happy. Another 2 games on the schedule to burn people's legs out on, and then we're done. It's okay.
Did you predict, Jack, that they were going to beat Bayern? I also predicted that. So,
I mean, I thought it was going to be. I did think that they had a chance at winning, but we'll get to this in the second part of the show. Let's talk about Tuesday's Champions League matches, because these kind of hit home close to you. We'll start with the game that was played in Portugal. Benfica, of course, downing Borussia Dortmund 1-0. That came on a Mitroglou goal in the 48th minute, and that was a class finish. I'll turn this right over to you, Andrew, as you are the resident Bundesliga/Dortmund expert. What happened in this match? BVB just didn't show up to play on their trip to Portugal.
Dortmund are trash right now. For the once on Tuesday, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang could not hit the broadside of a barn, which is not good. Yeah, really just not a lot of energy. I thought that they would come out and play with more of a chip on their shoulder, given their recent league form. This was a chance kind of to prove some people wrong. You know, they have a relatively easy draw against Benfica. So a chance to, advance in the Champions League. But it was a bit of a letdown. They're not out of it. They still get Benfica back at the Westfalenstad. And, only one goal on aggregate down. So if they show up, if Aubameyang shows up, I think that they can still advance. But it was not an encouraging effort. Fair play to Benfica. Didn't think they would show as much as they did. But the back line, especially for Dortmund, has kind of been so inconsistent. So really the home leg will be dependent on whether or not the defense shows up.
Yeah, it was not the strongest showing from Dortmund. There's just not too much to talk about. Reed, I want to get your thoughts on one thing, though, that is important to us as Americans. And that, of course, is starlet Christian Pulisic did, in fact, get some game time in this Champions League matchup. Round of 16, knockout stage. That's a big venue on the road. Benfica's a hostile environment. Do you think it's important for a youngster like him as an American who's, going to be the face of U.S. soccer for the next 10 seasons or more? Do you think it's important for him to be getting time like this?
I think it's less important than it would have been for other youngsters coming up, just by the way that we know Pulisic has come up. He's not come up needing those minutes. He progresses a lot in training from what we can understand from the many media reports on his upbringing in Hershey, Pennsylvania. But a little bit more of a measured analysis on this Dortmund match. I think it really has to do with this because there was a lot of upheaval, not a lot of upheaval, but there's a lot of ins and outs this summer with Dortmund, mostly ins. And I think a bit of it has to do with the Dortmund side relying a lot on youth, and especially in a knockout tournament like this, especially against, a very interesting and balanced Benfica side that going away and losing 1-0, although not ideal, perhaps wasn't something that Thomas Tuchel didn't, have as a possibility, especially because, they were at Darmstadt, I think, the last league match, and they really haven't been getting it done in the league lately. They've just been slow, and I think that's a lot to do with their reliance on youth. Well, perhaps not reliance, but their willingness to give opportunities out to the young. And
I actually I'm going to disagree with you on that one, Reed. I think that actually Tuesday, as far as the Champions League goes, and I think the league is a separate matter entirely for Dortmund, the strongest guys on the pitch were actually some of the new guys. Mark Bartra turned in a solid game, which we haven't seen from him as much this year. Ousmane Dembele looks strong. Pulisic looks strong. He's not a new face, but he is getting more first-team minutes than he has in the past. Looks strong coming on. Really, the worst guys were Socrates, who's been around for a while, Aubameyang, who, like I said, could not hit the goal if his life depended on it, and their fullbacks, who both have been, Pisic and Durham have both been around for a while. They know the drill. So I actually was pleasantly surprised by how well guys like Dembele did on Tuesday. Was disappointed in the overall effort, however.
Yeah, and yeah. I think the only thing you can really say back to that is that it is. I think there is a capacity for a need to adjust around players like Ousmane Dembele, because his numbers are spectacular. But I think that's mostly due to the experience that he gets to kind of depend on around him. His numbers are like mind-boggling. He's one of the best players in the top 5 leagues all in all of Europe, like regardless of age. It's spectacular. But yeah, I don't really count them out of this draw, but
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the youngsters definitely do have a big role to play at Dortmund, which has got to be favorable amongst those who like to make up the yellow wall. But let us move on to yesterday's second match, and this is really the headliner of the day, if you will. Of course, this might be the only thrashing that's more embarrassing than Arsenal's loss to Bayern today. Paris Saint-Germain hosted Barcelona, and the French Giants just absolutely ran wild in a 4-0 victory. Of course, the scoring started off with an absolutely pristine Di Maria free kick, followed up just before halftime by a classy Julian Draxler finish. The young German man is worth his money. Of course, Di Maria hit a second lovely curler with that left foot of his 55 minutes into the game, and that Edison Cavani, it wasn't the prettiest of goals, but if you really look back at the Cavani goal, great ball through, and it was a striker's goal. He took it first time on the run, beat the goalkeeper. It was a good take. I mean, I think Luis Enrique might be his own demise here at Barcelona, as he seems to be overthinking every single match that they go into.
That's not a.
It's just. It's an interesting style of play that he's been putting out on the pitch in recent times. So I guess I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, I have 2 things on this. Well, maybe 3. I think the first thing we have to recognize is a birthday boy's delight, that match. Jeez, Di Maria and Edison Cavani, both born on Valentine's Day, getting buckets. It's crazy.
Someone else was born on Valentine's Day. Happy birthday, Reed.
One of the... You gotta
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Reed. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah. No, I think they both played really well. And to the Cavani point, I think I don't remember exactly who it was. I think it was Maradona who pointed this out, that despite all the criticism he gets for not finishing chances that seem harder to miss than score, he has this wonderful knack and beautiful sense of positioning that you can't really teach. And I think that because I was watching that game, because once I heard about the Barca was 3-0 down, I stopped whatever I was doing and I turned it on. And I think that you saw a little bit of that in that goal. And to the Luis Enrique point, and I want to hear what Andrew has to say about this, I think it's a little bit of trying to live up to pedigree, especially the managers and how defining they've been on the world stage before him, coming, setting the tactical mindset of the world at Barcelona. I think he's trying to do something of the same, and it's not quite working.
Should I respond to that? Yes. Okay. I think the thing that really struck me watching this match was that really more on PSG than Barcelona. Just watching League this year, PSG have not been the best in League. Monaco have, and you kind of wonder if they want to prove a point in the Champions League that they have been unable to prove domestically, and that Barcelona kind of fell victim to this because on their day, PSG can hang with anyone in Europe, and I think we forget about that given how often that they flop in the Champions League. And Di Maria, Draxler are world-class players who could start on any team in the league or in the world, and they show their quality. Also, to Barcelona, they're kind of in a strange place at the moment. They're a bit in transition. Obviously, the Neymar, Messi, Suarez, core is not. But you look at some of their pieces in the midfield and the back line are kind of shifting. Who the familiar faces, Iniesta, not that he doesn't still have class, but kind of on his way out. Sergio Busquets, Piqué, etc. All kind of their roles are changing, and Luis Enrique kind of has to figure out how to bridge that gap in the meantime, I think.
Yeah, I do think that you bring up some points about them aging out and that their style of play has been a little bit seen too long. However, one team's roles that are not shifting is the point to the spot team, and the producer is buzzing into my ear that is all the time that we had for part one.
Tell the producer to shove it. I have one more point on PSG. I forgot.
Stick around for part 2 of the show, guys. We will be right back to talk about today's Champions League matches. Y'all talk for so long about pointless stuff. It kills me.
You're kind of right.
You kill me. Literally, I was like 10 minutes to talk about 2 games, and we were like 15, 16 minutes into this stupid podcast.
Boo-hoo.
You're right.
I'm done with your points. You kill me.
You're right. I'm sorry.
This is a critique from within the organization.
What?
This is a hard critique from within the organization.
Oh, yeah. No, that was a bad segment. That was a bad segment. We're going to do better in part 2.
I disagree. I thought it was a fine segment.
I thought it was long-winded. Even sometimes when I was saying things, I felt, wow, snaps. Hold on.
we just took the same amount of time to talk about 2 Champions League matches that we did to talk about the entire Saturday in last episode.
That's true. Although last Saturday was boring.
True.
These nuts are boring, boy.
That's true. I don't know. There were things I could have taken back. I'll destroy it in editing, don't worry.
Yeah, you're going to have to do some work on that one where Andrew was like, wait, is this supposed to be me?
Yeah, I did not realize.
I'm going to destroy this in editing.
You said you had 3 points, and then you got through 2 of them and were like throwing it over to me, and I was like, okay.
No, Reed said I got 3 points, and I was just like, oh, Lord.
That's why I was so rambly on that point, because I was like trying to figure out what the hell I was going to say in response.
I'm sorry.
Because I was going to come back. I was just going to make one point, and that was that the young guys on PSG looked really good.
They did. Verratti looked fabulous.
Then I had to make a point about Barcelona as well. So
all I should have said is that Emre PSG boss was only brought there by the Saudis to win the Champions League. They don't give a fuck about Ligue 1 anymore. That's all I should have said, but that's not what I said.
I mean, it's fair.
We're going to smash through part 2 of the show because I'm going to talk about Arsenal in an angry rant for 2 minutes, and then we're just going to go straight to Real Madrid because I can't bear it.
All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to turn off my mic. I'm going to go make a drink and come back and talk about that Insigne goal. And then I'm going to finish my
Okay, all I need is like 30 seconds to talk about how Real Madrid's midfield is boss. That's all I need.
Okay, so we're gonna bring it back, and we're just gonna do part 2 without Reed because I think it's funny.
Let's go. Okay, go.
Good. Welcome back to part 2 of the show, guys. Now we are going to discuss a sad murder scene that happened today in the Champions League. Of course, that is the victim of such an act was my beloved Arsenal Gunners. FC Bayern München, as they are so fondly referred to over there in the Bavaria region of Germany, 5, Arsenal 1. Oh my goodness, don't even get me started on how horrendous of a match this was. But I'm like every pessimistic Arsenal fan. I had no huge expectations in this. And to say that Arsenal was completely just obliterated is a little bit unfair to the Gunners, I think. They very much had a grip on this game 50 minutes in until one very unfortunate moment when Laurent Koscielny had to leave the match for a leg injury that we don't have a ton of details about. Gabriel comes on for him, 50th minute. I don't rate Gabriel. I never have, and I hate when he plays. And within 13 minutes of him, with Koscielny leaving the pitch, the leadership was gone, the organization was gone, and Bayern had blown 3 goals past an unbelievably disorganized Arsenal backline. So frustrating. And then, of course, their 5th goal, just whatever. It doesn't even matter at that point. My biggest takeaway from this game is that Laurent Koscielny is the thing that drives the Arsenal Gunners organizationally, leadership standpoint. Just wanting to show some of, Point to the Spot's favorite vocabulary word, resilience on the pitch only comes about when the French center back is in the match. He left the match. We lost all of that today. I'm very upset. Alexis Sanchez, you are a lucky bastard after missing that penalty and then, showing your world-classness, taking off your chest and hitting a volley into the far post. Whatever. Arsenal, hard done, 5-1, unfortunate injury, doomed us. Dunzo, hate it, sucks. Okay. We're going to move on because I can't bear to talk about this match any longer. Andrew, please enlighten us about this Real Madrid 3, Napoli 1 result. Of course, Napoli did have a 1-0 lead in this one before, the reigning Champions League champions came back to equalize, of course, in the first half. So it was 1-1 at half, and then Toni Kroos and Casemiro both grabbing a goal in the second period to finish the game off 3-1. A little bit about this.
I saw exactly 0 minutes of this match live. I did watch the replays coming back. Just a couple quick points. I actually thought Napoli stood a good chance to upset Real Madrid here. Obviously proven wrong. Secondly, Ronaldo absolutely proving his class today. Man of the match. Occasionally gets a lot of crap thrown his way, but was brilliant today. That being said, Madrid's midfield also brilliant. Shows why they are the best midfield in the world. And Toni Kroos, to me, is the straw that stirs the Real Madrid drink. He might be one of the very best midfielders in the world. And so I'm going to make a bold prediction now, Jack. Real Madrid defend the Champions League.
I mean, not too of a bold prediction, but
and then next year, Hull City win the league. The year after that, they win the Champions League.
Little bit bolder. My takeaways from this are that Toni Kroos gets better with age. He's like fine wine. And also that Napoli might have something to say. People forget this was played in the Bernabeu. Real Madrid didn't win their group. And so that almost favors Napoli because, playing in Italy is going to be a tough affair for the Spanish Giants. And Napoli only need 2 goals. They can buckle in. I think we're going to see a different formation than the 4-3-3 that they fielded today. I think it'll be a little bit more defensive-minded, and they might play with more diamond shape up top. Overall, today's Champions League matches much less satisfying to watch compared to yesterday's, partly because I am sad and sullen. But, I mean, Champions League football is fun to watch. The Insigne goal was bonkers. And I don't know. Anything else? Anything else that you think that we should add, Andrew? All right, I'm getting a confirmed no from our producer. So that's all for part 2 of the show, guys. Join us in part 3 when we hear yet another football fable from none other than Reed Entirely Bonkers, Hammondinho, Dino, Hammond. We'll be right back, guys. Enjoy the music. Reed, we didn't just record a segment without you.
We got it done. I wanted to come in at the end and talk about the Insigne goal because that was kind of bonkers. But you didn't really give me an entry point, so I just, started looking up my notes and.
You didn't have your headphones in, so I couldn't tell if you were listening or not. And so I was
I had them unplugged.
I couldn't tell if you were listening or not, and I was like, because that's why I was like, is there anything else that we want to add about this? And then like you didn't do anything, and I was like, well, I guess not. What are you drinking, gin and tonic?
Mm-hmm.
Why? It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, yeah.
You going out?
I agree.
He needs it to get through this show.
So, are you going out?
Editing.
Oh, the editing won't be that bad. You just gotta like cut out the one awkward silence in the first part.
I'm gonna chop this bitch up. It's gonna be nice.
As long as it publishes tonight.
It's gonna be 20 minutes long.
Ready for football fable?
I am. It doesn't have a title.
That's okay. Do you have a script?
Nonetheless. Hold on. I need to finish writing this guy's name and then I'm good.
Do you have a script or just notes?
What's the one phrase synopsis of it? So I know what to talk about when you throw it back over to us.
The one phrase synopsis. There will be money in the Bundesliga.
Okay.
No, hold on. Marx was right. Everything traces back to materialism. That's the one phrase.
Well, that got hot and heavy.
Yeah.
It got hot and heavy. We went from very, very different things on that one. All right.
Okay. I'm ready to go.
I'm muting myself. Turning the camera. Reed, you bring us back in 5, 4, 3.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the last part of the show. And as on every Wednesday pod, last part of the show is a football fable. This week, we will be taking an eye to the future of the Bundesliga, which has become extraordinarily more interesting this season with the likes of, RB Leipzig making massive splashes in both the league table and the amount of attention that this podcast has paid to East Germany. Eintracht Frankfurt doing really well, and weirdly enough, no one talking about them. And a mainstay of the analytics community's favorite Bundesliga team, Hoffenheim, with their 29-year-old Julian Nagelsmann management team. Look at in this fable, dear listener, is going to be the materialist argument as to why the Bundesliga is likely became more competitive this year, as well as will continue to be only more competitive as the years go forward. And the best place to look, I think, is the Bundesliga just signed a new television rights deal in July of 2016, last summer. And it's the first time that the Bundesliga will have a revenue from domestic television rights being over $1 billion, or €1 billion rather. And that's just a good indication mark for it's going to start in the 2018-2019 season. And a lot of people started looking at the Bundesliga a little bit more seriously when those talks began, and I think we've seen that with the amount of money that's being spent there, and there's just a little bit more focus there. And as often we've seen in the most competitive leagues, like the Premier League and even Serie A has a pretty equitable distribution of their television rights. You tend to find a little bit more competitiveness in leagues that have more equitable television rights. And there's been approximately, according to a statement from the owner of Bayer Leverkusen, there should be an average of an 85% increase in revenue across the Bundesliga for each team, which is something that radically changes the face of the league. And I think what makes that the most interesting analogy to this is that teams won't feel bullied by Bayern in the transfer market anymore. Lewandowski leaving on a free, Götze, and the latest Mats Hummels all going from Dortmund to Bayern for not great deals, it must be said. You would hope that a lot of the lower teams who find these gems, and teams like Leipzig and Hoffenheim, especially with these great young players, these very exciting young prospects, they won't feel bullied to Bayern, which in the end will have to reshape Bayern Munich as they structure themselves, but it should lead to a more competitive Bundesliga week in, week out. And with the level of management that we've seen come into that league, this different nature around it, despite Bayern's dismantling of Arsenal, there seems to be something else about season. And I just want to have you guys come back in and tell me, do you think that this new television deal is just going to be the first marker of money coming into the league? And do you guys think that money entering a league, television or otherwise, will lead to a more, regardless of the country?
Bundesliga still bores me. Money won't make a difference. There's my 10 words on it.
Nice.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have a more expansive take than Jack's incredibly shallow opinion on the Bundesliga. I think that, you look at what has happened with the Premier League in TV money, and you see the lower table teams able to afford better players, and it actually has relatively improved parity. Not completely, but I think it's more entertaining to watch the EPL now than it was 10 years ago from a standpoint of the whole league. I think the Bundesliga will undergo a similar transition. And also, you look at not just increase in revenue, but also increased exposure globally, especially in the US. The Bundesliga, like 4 years ago, was on Goal TV, which 16 people in the US get, I'm pretty sure. Like, I'll have to have legal check that, but I think that's about right. Now it's on Fox Sports. And one of the big reasons I think the EPL has held such a dominant position in American soccer viewing is because A, it's in English, so everyone can understand everything. And B, because it's been, for the past decade and a half, very easy to watch in the US. And a big... And also, I think you'll see similar things go on in Asia, and there are a lot of successful, from Shinji Kagawa on, you see a lot of successful Asian players in the Bundesliga. So I'll just wrap it up by saying I think that the Bundesliga is in a good position to tap some markets that the EPL has been managing to rake in money from for a while, and that will be to the league's benefit.
I'll be the first to admit my views of the Bundesliga are quite shallow, and my hatred for it, which is not really hatred, my lack of consideration for it, is something that's born off of the fact that I don't consume it very often. I have been watching a few Bundesliga matches lately, now that they are available, and they always play on Friday, which is a big thing. But I think it's getting better. I think the money will help, because money does talk, and money, stimulates things, new stadiums, all these things will grow. I don't know if it will ever grow to quite the height that the Premier League is or other leagues are within the United States. Just some like the established the established setting that we already have with soccer culture and with the leagues that are, currently very popular. I mean, the Bundesliga is by no means a bad league. I don't mean that when I say it bores me. I just think it bores me because when it's not, for so long, when it wasn't Dortmund versus Bayern, it wasn't going to be that much of a game or that much of a race in the title. I think Leipzig coming in, getting some money, doing some stuff has made it more entertaining, and I do think more money will help benefit more clubs, so it's less of a one-horse race. Similar to how we're seeing England now. There are 7 teams that people would like to point out, maybe even 8, that realistically at the beginning of every year you can consider contenders for, European spot, being Champions League or Europa League. And, this year we came into the league and everybody was like, oh, it's a 6-horse race. So I think money will help benefit the league. Currently, still not sold on Bundesliga taking off in the United States because I feel like it's hard to relate to what's going on there for a lot of consumers of soccer culture now.
I just think it's going to be really interesting because the Bundesliga has a more unified and direct marketing strategy than the Premier League. The Premier League, they like commercials and they like, montages and just having a general sense of allure. Whereas I think the Bundesliga like Twitter banter and things of that nature where they're trying. It's a more active marketing strategy. And they actually have a base of marketing in the United States. Like as a league, they have a marketing firm that they work out of in the States to build up, to try to, siphon away or broaden the Premier League market. And I think that's just something you won't ever see from a Premier League club, or especially not the Premier League and in the whole. And I kind of like that. I think that's going to be good for this, especially rapid growth that we've seen in the last 3 years.
Yes, I know what you mean. I think it's interesting with those individual agencies that they work through. Andrew, is there anything else that you would like to add on to this? This is me extending an olive branch because my hatred for the Bundesliga does put you off from time to time.
Yeah, I'll just say that I think that you've seen also a way that could potentially be an avenue into North America is the increased young American track record of going to Bundesliga clubs or just German clubs. I mean, you see guys in the second Bundesliga as well going over there and getting lots of playing time, because that's a hallmark of these clubs, to give young guys playing time and really show what they have to do, and then taking that back here and contributing for the national team. So I think if the Bundesliga can tap into that, and I think they started to do that with Pulisic, tap into that in marketing to an American audience, that will go a long ways as well.
I agree. I think that structurally the Bundesliga is very kind to young players and is something that would be very favorable to viewers here in the United States, given that Americans do have a long track record of playing well in the Bundesliga, which a lot of people don't know about because Bundesliga doesn't get a lot of media coverage.
But so, Jack, I still love you even though you don't like the Bundesliga, right?
You make me inside. But for the time being, I do think that is going to be it for us today here on the show. Let us know what you guys thought of the show today, and if you think we missed anything, you think you want to bring something up that you want us to talk about over the weekend. Of course, you can find the show on Twitter at @PointToTheSpot with the number 2, and we're gonna mix it up because we're all out of order. Andrew, where can they find you on Twitter?
They can find me at Andrew BAHL.
And Reed, where can they find you?
At That One Kid Reed.
Of course, you guys can find me on Twitter at Actual Jack Kelly. I am actually Jack Kelly after all. This was Point to the Spot, episode 15 and 14. God bless, it's episode 14. Doesn't matter. This was episode 14 of Point to the Spot. Don't forget to check out our partners, American EPL Thoughts. You can find them on Twitter at American EPL or at American EPL or online at AmericanEPLThoughts.com. Until next time. Thanks for listening and take care. We'll see you after a rousing weekend of the FA Cup.